Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome to another Eternal Top Decks video series. First of all, look at the awesome new overlay stuff that we got going on here, especially that super sweet camera frame, but also the really nice new frame for all the social media and stream info. You can also now find my Twitch address here on screen for anyone that missed before, that it was in the description the entire time. You can just follow me there to catch me streaming. I don't have a super fixed schedule, but I try to stream as much as I can and usually stream pretty long when I'm on. So check that out. These new overlays were given to me by Clarity GGTV. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't want anything in return. He just shared it because he had it and he does it as a day job, and it's apparently not a lot of work for him. So really big shout out to Clarity GGTV. Thank you so much for this awesome overlay stuff. There's a little more overlay stuff on my stream scene, so come to my stream, check out the rest of the sweet new stuff that we got from Clarity, and most importantly, check out Clarity GGTV. His Twitch he can be found on Twitch with the exact same name, Clarity GGTV. He also has a YouTube channel. You can find it under my featured channels. So far, he didn't make any Eternal YouTube content, so don't expect to find Eternal stuff there. But on Twitch, he streams Eternal fairly regularly, if I'm not mistaken. So check that out. Say hi from me, and thank you from me again. And just let him know that you're checking him out because of this shout out, so that he feels the love and the support for the awesome stuff that he made for me, because I'm really appreciating it. It just makes the stream and the videos look so much nicer and so much more professional. Alright, enough on that. You guys want deck tech, so you'll have it. You shall have it. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about Auric. You've already seen my tournament run with it. You probably know about the deck by now, partially because Jaffa made top 4 of the LCQ and top 8, I think, of the Invitational with my updated version. I kind of regretted that I didn't rerun it at the LCQ and just ran with Chalice, because I felt like Chalice might be a bit more reliable, because this deck has sometimes a bit iffy early game against some decks, and if people would pick up decks like Kalimdir's, Hooru Flyers, that would just completely obliterate me, and Chalice would do much better against these kind of hostile decks that beat up on decks like this. So I decided to switch, but it clearly was a mistake, and Jaffa just cruised through the LCQ into the Invitational. So congrats to him again for making top 8 of the Invitational. Let's talk about the deck list. So this deck is a bit like Big Combrei, but it's a bit more dedicated ramp, go big, and less controlling than Big Combrei. It still plays some of the control elements of Big Combrei, but it's less of a control deck and more of a big card, go over the top ramp deck that just kind of overpowers whatever any other deck in the game is basically capable of doing. The control elements are mostly meant to just keep you alive, buy you time to get to your big parliaments, hit of the Horus and Ascendant stuff, rather than to control the game as they do more in Big Combrei, I feel. Okay, so let's talk about the early game stuff. We have 4 Desert Marshal and 4 Temple Scribe, basically the same 2-drop staple as in Big Combrei and also as in Chalice. It has been working really well for me in Chalice, and these two usually did enough of a job, my experience, that I didn't want or need a Thorn usually. Then we have Siraf in place of Chalice, of the healer and Chalice basically, since healer synergizes well in Chalice with Chalice, and Siraf synergizes well in a ramp deck with the ramp basically, and both have more than 3 health and block most aggressive units in the early game. I initially had healers in this deck as well. The problem I had with healers is that they just kind of don't do a lot. Like, early on they are good, in the right matchups only, to be fair, so only against aggressive decks. Other matchups they were even pretty irrelevant early on, and later on they're kind of bad against any deck, really. Because all you want is cards that are powerful and have the potential to win the game for you. And healer does nothing. Healer is just like a 2-5 against his 3 healths, generates no additional value, no extra cards, no nothing. Doesn't even cycle. Too little utility in my opinion. So I tried to streamline the deck a bit more and make it more consistently capable of doing enough powerful things with all the extra power out back, while still doing enough early on to not get run over. And I basically cut the healers for 3 Runehammers and a 4 Eilyn's Choice. The 4 Eilyn's Choice have been amazing for me in Chalice, and it's no different in this deck. They just help you with all the high pressure units that Siraf can't stop early on, and kills those. It even stops Carnosaur from killing, say, a Marshal Ironthorn, which Vanquish can't. And it also counters all the problematic cards. Harsh Rules, Stashes, Aid of the Hoorus, Channel the Tempests, Great Parliaments, all the like big spells, the game breaking spells, or simply big burn spells like Flame Blast and Obliterate. So you can hardly have enough of these, so I wanted the 4 that worked so well in Chalice, because in some way this deck plays out a bit similar to Chalice, just less controlling, more proactive, but all in all you're still trying to kind of stay afloat in the early game, not get run over and fall too far behind, and then overpower the opponent with your late game engine. In Chalice that's like a bunch of small dudes, and Chalice, here it is a bunch of big dudes and power and powerful cards that win the game with your power. And the Runehammers just are more versatile and impactful than healer. First of all, they are a 2-for-1 a lot of the time. You can just kill something and then kill another thing the next turn. Then they help you better against relic weapons than healer does. They also cannot be stopped by removal and most tricks, except for sometimes Finest Hour. So while healer just can be removaled by a Suffocate, for example, out of a Burn Queen deck, or just killed in combat with a combat trick, turning it into sort of a jump blocker, Runehammer actively reduces the pressure and the board presence of the opponent without much room for interaction from most decks. So it is less prone to being blown out and tempoed by their cheap cards that all these aggro decks put into a deck to push through cards like healer. If your aggro deck loses to healer, it's not a good aggro deck and you're not going to play it. So you're going to be prepared for healer. Sure, sometimes you won't have your answer and healer is going to be annoying, but your deck more often than not can answer a healer and keep pushing or winning through a healer. And Runehammer is much, much harder to stop. Also, Runehammer deals with the annoying Aegis units that survive your harsh roll. That's another big deal. And it's even good against the more mid-rangey aggressive decks like Ardenport aggro or Hooru Flyers, for example, where healer just looks dumb and Runehammer kills every single one of their units. So that's another way where this is really important. And against Recano it's kind of the same, like it gets rid of their Silverwing Familiar even with a Hammer of Might on it, where healer just sits there and looks dumb and your harsh roll doesn't do anything either. So Runehammer is just a staple in these kinds of decks and it's just amazing and proactively deals with threats rather than giving the opponent a way to one-up your attempt at stalling them with a healer or something like that. So that's a really important thing to understand, and how that change basically happened, and it worked out pretty well for Jaffa in the Invitational, and so far when I played the deck on ladder, it also worked out really well. Because even against, say, Skycrack, I'd rather have a Runehammer to kill their Vadius than have a Combrei healer. More often than not. Especially because if you have like a healer and a Siraf, doesn't really matter which one you play, but you're like not gonna be as power efficient the next turn dropping a 3-drop, but dropping a Siraf on 3 and then a hammer on 4 usually locks up the game if they don't have an answer for that, because the Siraf protects the hammer, stalls them the turn you drop the Siraf, and the next turn the hammer starts reducing their board, and that's where the game goes downhill for them usually. And also you have the secret pages on 3 that you often want to do, so you have like Eilyn's Choice plus secret pages as in like fast spell turn, or Siraf, so reducing the 3-cost cards in the deck a bit makes the curve perform a bit smoother, and the deck didn't really have a 4-drop, especially because in most matchups you don't want to play Parliament on turn 4. Secret pages, kind of an interesting card. Actually pretty big deal against aggro in this deck, because it allows you to either harsh rule the turn earlier on turn 4, which often catches opponents by surprise if they have not yet identified you as all-ramp. Like, the deck is kind of known now, so some people might consider this option, but more often than not, with 3 power open with like a Scribe or a Marshal out, especially without the blue, they will just think you're Chalice or big Combrei or something, and then secret pages harsh roll and they just like lose the game. And even secret pages into Marshal is pretty good against aggressive decks like Skycrack that have issues with a 5/5 so early on. And then you can power ramp into your late game prematurely and take over the game before they get you low enough to ever have a chance at burning you out. Yeah, great Parliament, just a decent 4-drop against aggressive decks and powerful card late game against slower decks. Harsh rule, self-explanatory. Deck has too little and too soft of an early game to not run harsh rule. I tried and especially considered attempts to build a version without harsh rule, but harsh rule just seemed too good a lot of the time as a value card basically, and also as a safety button to reset the game before churning out your late game. Like, basically this is your early game up to like the Runehammer, then you reset the game by harsh ruling, and then you have your late game of these cards and the Parliament after harsh rule. That's like how the game basically plays stage-wise. The pre-harsh rule stage, the harsh rule stage, and the post-harsh rule stage, in a way, in most matchups. And then in like the late game stage you have additional harsh rules potentially as like a safety reset button if the board gets out of hand because you don't have enough post-harsh rule game that you have drawn or anything. Then we have 4 Marshal Ironthorn, pretty self-explanatory, great card. 5/5 is a decent body for 5, power ramps you into 8 and bigger Parliaments, gets the threat itself once it hits 15 to just end the game, and also lets your Ascendant draw 2 cards a turn if it survives. Don't be shy to just drop this aggressively on 5 even without playing a power in a lot of matchups, especially when you're under pressure, because if they kill this, they can't kill your Ascendant. They are less likely to be able to answer your Ascendant as well, so just keep throwing that stuff at them until one sticks, and that's gonna win the game usually. And then we have the 3/8 of the Hooru. They are basically like the game ender. First of all, the stun effect has a similar effect as Ironthorn's ultimate, basically just one-sided wiping the board and usually immediately allowing you to win the game over 2 turns, basically the same way as Crystallize does, but it also can gain you back the board when you're behind, put 2 4/4 flyers in play, and gain you 4 health to not get burned out in the super late game and drawing 4 cards while stunning the entire opposing board for a turn, and then like getting your next turn with like 13 plus power after 8 and 4 freshly drawn cards should usually be enough for this deck to take over the game or even end it right there. 12 is a lot though, so I'm still not 100% sure if 3 is the right number, since even with all the ramp, getting to 12 can be a bit tough. So it is possible that 2 is better, but I'm not sure. Like, I currently rather lean on the side of 3, just to actually have it often enough. But I'm not sure, maybe the deck has it more often than it can cast it, and maybe better off running one less. I'm not 100% sure. And yeah, for Ascendant, also pretty self-explanatory. Another card advantage and game-ending engine that just takes over the game the same way as Chalice does. Just a little easier to answer, but also higher impact because of the big growing body. Then we have Minotaur Ambassador, pretty sweet with Ironthorn and with Ascendant, draw extra cards and power ramp, and in general another way to ensure that we get to 12 or even get to 8, like dropping this on 6, immediately jumping from 6 to 9, sweet for great parliaments, and so on. Just a solid card, and the 3/5 body is actually a pretty decent defensive body. And the deck draws so many sigils out of its deck that the thinning between Ambassador, Seek, Find a Way, and Secret Pages is actually like kind of relevant and noticeable in the later game, and significantly increases the density of non-power cards in the deck and gives you a bit better chance at drawing high impact cards off the top of your deck. And then last but not least, we have the power base, 25 power, 4 Seek power and 2 Find a Way. Like, I'm not super happy with Find a Way because it's like really slow and sometimes has tension with the ramping, because if you ramp but at the same time have depleted power from Find a Way, you ramp but you don't get a power higher, you basically just negate the depletedness of Find a Way. If you go Find a Way into Secret Pages, then you have 5 turn, then you have 4 power turn 4 and play the 5th power, but the only power that you can play is from Find a Way, then you end up with 4 power on turn 4 instead of 5 power on turn 5, so you can't Harsh Rule or Ironthorn, so that's a bit awkward. But this card basically takes a bit of the role of something like Wisdom of the Elders in a deck like Chalice. Since we don't have this kind of effect, we need a way to ensure our power drops and make sure that we have enough power without having too little action, and having power cards that give you multiple power in one card is perfect for that. So Find a Way drawing us 2 power cards is very important for a deck that is so power hungry, and also it fixes the double Primal and also the early Primal for Eilyn's Choice. So that's another nice upside, and all in all, with the Secret Pages, Find a Way and this Seek, deck has 35 power, which is arguably not even as much as it sounds, because the Secret Pages are meant to ramp you, not make power drops. So you want to play power and Secret Pages, not Secret Pages instead of a power drop, because otherwise the card is pretty bad. And Ambassador also helps a bit with the power, obviously, but only once you hit your critical amounts of power already and then get to like the big amounts. Honestly, most of the time, if I lose with the deck still, it is because I'm power screwed. That's the funny thing, which is why I would even wish I could fit 1 or 2 extra power in the deck in a way that isn't too hurtful. Maybe it's okay to cut one of these and add one of these, but like I said, this card is pretty slow and clunky, but maybe it's worth it to try 3 and 3. I would just tell you guys to just experiment with the number here. I'll probably try 3 and 3 again. I wasn't too happy with 3 and 3 before, just because of what I mentioned with like the slowness, clunkiness of this. Why I went with this, to make the deck run a little smoother, because that's another way to potentially lose with the deck if you're too slow and clunky, and Find a Way is pretty slow and clunky. But yeah, gotta balance those things, it's kinda tough. But if the deck hits its power drops every turn, it often feels pretty unstoppable and does a really good job, so it's very important to make sure to hit your power drops. Then we have like 12 sigils for our seeds and all the sigil fetching stuff. 5 of each of the main colors and the 2 primal that we need for 8, so we have 2 guaranteed fetchable sources. The 8 Combrei duels and 5 primal duels, giving us 5, 7, 11 plus the finder ways 13 primal sources, and the pages makes for 17, so we have a decent chance to be able to already use this on turn 3 and are almost guaranteed to be able to have primal for this on turn 4. Maybe, only maybe, it is acceptable to cut this Seed of Wisdom for another time sigil to make the sigil count a bit higher for all the sigil fetching, because sometimes in the very late game you can run into the situation where they are kind of dead, and also make the power develop even a little smoother, because having less seeds and more sigils makes the remaining seeds better and reduces the chance of having awkward power combinations that are really slow. But we also want to be able to play our Eilyn's choice reliably in the early to mid game. So another thing that's important to balance out. And then 2 Hooru banner as the other 2 blue duels, because we don't need Justice that early, and by the time we need the Justice and the Primal, usually have a unit in play, so having some banners makes for a nice mix. I think Jaffa still had the seeds in the list when he ran it. Missed that upgrade from me, but all in all, these the banners should make the power run a little bit, because drawing a seed off the top with no power in hand doesn't help you often, while drawing a banner off the top with a unit in play it immediately gives you power and allows you to make critical plays. For example, hitting your 5th power for harsh roll to harsh roll when you're in a pinch and all that stuff. So that is something to keep in mind. Like, basically in your opening hand, seeds are usually better. Although, to be fair, only multiple banners are bad in your opening hand, because if you only have one and can't fit it in your curve with a unit later, you can just play it, deplete it turn 1, because the deck doesn't really have a turn 1 play. So seeds are mostly better on like turn 2 or 3, something like that. But on turn 1 or most other spots in the game, banners are better than seeds in decks with a bunch of units, so keep that in mind. Alright, that's the power base. And yeah, a quick note on the history of the deck. Basically, Jaffa and I kind of independently came up with the idea of building a deck like this. His approach, his version was fairly different and had a bunch of like elements that didn't work so well, and I brewed mine and showed him mine, and he started like toying around with mine and really liked it, and I did some testing with it on ladder, refined it a bit, ran it in the ETS, lost in the quarterfinals. Once again, happened to me a fair share, pretty frustrating. Keep getting like bad matchups or bad draws in the quarterfinals when it's critical. You can rewatch that in my video. I'll link it for you up here. You can check out the VODs from that ETS if you haven't yet. Basically I was 2-2 against Kamato, and in the deciding game I think I was like stuck on 2 power or something, had like some ridiculously terrible draw just watching him kill me. When all in all the matchup is favorable for me, and it was already like fortunate for him to be 2-2 in 5 games, I think. And yeah, then got lucky in the 5th game for me just not getting to play. Because I mean his deck is basically not late gamey enough and also not fast enough to realistically consistently contest this deck. Which also has been shown, I think, later by, I think, Jaffa beating similar versions of Kamato's Argenport midrange deck with fair ease. for the mentioned reasons. But oh well, that's how it goes. And yeah, Jaffa just adopted my list then for the LCQ and the Invitational, like I said, and I made this update for the Invitational for him to try and fix the issues that I found prior when playing it, and from what I know, he was really happy with it and worked pretty well until he got defeated in the top 8 of the Invitational. Alright, that's it for the deck tech. As usual, we're gonna hop into some games to show the deck in action, show you how to pilot it and what to pay attention to succeed with it in your own games when you're trying it on ladder. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for the first half of the games coming up in a moment.